Welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt radio program here on the Salem News Channel, Salem Radio Network. I am Kurt Schlichter. I am the guest host, retired Army colonel, trial lawyer, senior columnist at townhall.com, author of a number of books, including the Kelly Turnbull books, and my latest, it's right here for you watching on the Salem News Channel, American Apocalypse, the Second American Civil War. You should go out and get it. Look, you don't want to sit here and listen to me talk. You want the kind of guests that we get for you on the Hugh Hewitt Show. And I've got Mark Caputo, the Axios White House reporter. You can follow him at Mark A. Caputo. That's Mark with a C. Mark, welcome to the show.
Good to be back, Kurt. What's going on?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. As a White House reporter, you must be doing a lot of reporting lately, because we just had Donald Trump say something, send a little subtle message to Nicolas Maduro, and I can't repeat it verbatim and maintain the high standards of the FCC and not get Hugh Hewitt fined hundreds of thousands of dollars. But he essentially told Nicolas Maduro not to blankety blank with the United States. Trump's really feeling his oats after this peace deal, isn't he?
I think he is, but Trump has disliked Maduro for a while. There was a brief period of time where he let Maduro know that a deal was imminent if he wanted to leave Venezuela peacefully. But I don't think Maduro realized how serious Trump was about at least ratcheting up the pressure. And now you're seeing the ratchet up the pressure aspect of that.
Well, there are reports there are special forces in the area. There's obviously Navy ships out there. There have been sightings of various helicopters. Is there word on the street that we might be doing some sort of active military measures against this communist SOB?
I've been assured for a long period of time that that's not a likelihood. But whenever you're dealing with Trump, all options are always on the table, and no one ever wants to predict exactly what he's going to do. That's part of his strategic asymmetry, right? He's unpredictable. I think it's probably unlikely, but who knows? I think a thing to look for, which I've started to hear rumbles about, is not so much covert military action against Nicolas Maduro, but the changing of the reward for his capture. Now, at the beginning of the year, and since the first Trump administration, there was a reward for Nicolas Maduro's capture posted by the United States of $25 million. Attorney General Pam Bondi doubled that. But it's a reward for his capture. There's some chatter underneath the surface about changing that reward to a reward for Nicolas Maduro's capture, dead or alive, for $50 million. That could significantly change the game, according to some of the people who are talking about it. Now, I need to make clear that this is percolating up and really hasn't reached a lot of ears in the administration. So that could be a significant escalation if the administration decides to do it without having to put additional boots on the ground. Notice I said additional. There are certainly assets, as you know, in and around various conflict zones. And Trump, the administration, leaked to the New York Times, and Trump essentially confirmed through a non-denial that there are CIA assets in the region, in the area, and they're doing things. Exactly what they're doing, we don't know, but they're certainly not there to prop up the regime.
Well, Donald Trump does have a track record on this count, as Qasem Soleimani could testify to if he hadn't been, essentially vaporized. But and as Hamas found out the other day when they started getting a little uppity, and he said, if you keep murdering people, we're going to come in there and kill you. So I think it pays to take Donald Trump at his word. But I want to follow up on one thing you said and apply it to something domestic. You said one of the things about Donald Trump is he's not really predictable. Now, with the shutdown going on, a little while ago, Trump made some noises about a possible resolution. Are John Thune and Mike Johnson a little afraid that Donald Trump may look at this situation and decide to intervene and perhaps, in their view, undercut them?
That's a good question. That was a concern that we heard more about a week ago. What we have since heard, and what I have since heard from the White House at all levels, is Donald Trump's position on negotiating with Democrats to give them something, in this case, a continuation of a certain number of Affordable Care Act subsidies in return for them opening the government is similar to what Michael Corleone offers in The Godfather, where he says, my offer is nothing. Now, that could change, but the best available evidence I've gotten is Democrats who have a memory back to 2019 when Trump was in his first term. It was the longest shutdown. Knew that Donald Trump likes to be liked. What politician doesn't? That presidents get blamed for shutdowns, and that if they kept it on long enough, he would come to the table because he's also a deal maker by heart. And what we're being told this time is that this Donald Trump is different. He doesn't give a SH, however you say it on radio without getting in trouble with the FCC.
A darn.
And a darn. He doesn't give a darn, doesn't give a shoot about it, and that he's willing to go all out. And unlike in 2019, rather than sort of move to the half a loaf position from the full loaf that the Democrats want, speaking metaphorically, Trump is going the opposite direction, saying no bread for you. That is, he's got Russ Vought, his budget director, coming up with plans and executing them to start firing people and to make noise about possibly withholding the back pay of furloughed workers and using that as a negotiating tool as well. Early on, there was a belief that maybe we could get out of the shutdown soon. And I think increasingly you're starting to hear people say this could last a really long time. And who blinks first, who knows? But the White House is telling me it ain't going to be them.
Well, I find it to be kind of an interesting strategy. And I, do have a degree in strategy from the Party War College, the Army War College, that you're threatening the party of small government with making the government smaller. I'm not sure that's how threats normally work. It certainly wasn't when I was a lawyer. But, let's see. Look, it's a bold plan. Let's see how it plays out.
It reminds me of a scene in Blazing Saddles, which we probably can't discuss on the radio either. But
he's crazy enough to do it. Yeah, and your Michael Corleone reference from The Godfather Part 2. All I could see is Hakeem Jeffries in a Tijuana brothel with Stephen Miller in there going, "I'm your friend. I will take care of everything for you." So let's let that image percolate.
What's interesting in the dynamics of the White House is the White House views Hakeem Jeffries as a more reliable, hard-nosed negotiator than Schumer. They were surprised. Yes, they were surprised, admittedly so, by Schumer, because at the beginning of the year, Schumer had the same sort of paradigm that you do, which is don't threaten the party of small government with cutting the government, because we, the party of big government, I'm going to put big in air quotes, we're going to lose. That was Schumer's position then, earlier in the year. This time, he decided, like, okay, let's go into shutdown. So Schumer was terrified of the scenario that's starting to play out now. And that did catch the White House by surprise. And they tell me that while Hakeem Jeffries is very good on the camera to represent the Democratic position that he's required to do, there's a certain kabuki in all of this, right? Behind closed doors, they feel they can do a lot more kind of clear business with it.
That's an interesting take. I would have thought that we've gone along better with Chuck Schumer. Is that because, of character flaws with Chuck Schumer, just who he is? Or is he so terrified of AOC nipping at his heels that he can't think straight? We've got about 30 seconds.
That might be a false choice. Also remember, familiarity breeds contempt. Donald Trump and Chuck Schumer have known each other for a long time from New York, so factor that in.
Very interesting. It's always great to have Mark Caputo of Axios, their White House reporter, on. He's got the inside scoop, and it's all there for you on the Hugh Hewitt Show. And of course, that was, I believe, some Judas Priest with Breaking the Law. Very apt for the guy behind the Breakin' History podcast. We're joined by Eli Lake. He's a Free Press contributor and the guy behind the aforementioned podcast. Eli, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show. And I just listened to your podcast on English censorship. Bravo. It was terrific.
Thank you so much, Kurt. It's great to be here. And thank you so much for the plug on the Breaking History. I recommend everyone tune in and subscribe.
Yeah, you've not only won me over, you've won over my beautiful wife, Irina. We both listen to it
Thank
separately as we walk Barky and Bitey, the dogs. Now, as a Free Press contributor, before we jump into some actual foreign policy stuff, as a Free Press contributor, have things changed for you since the Free Press was purchased by CBS News' parent company?
No, still writing for the website and making the podcast. I know Barry has been much busier, but
I'll bet.
you know the Free Press is still kind of chugging along. So I haven't noticed many changes in terms of anything else. We're still competing for stories and so forth.
Well, let me throw you one more plug. I suggest you guys go and check out Eli's Free Press article, very long, very detailed, on Harmeet Dillon, our terrific Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. You quote some very prestigious lawyers in that. And I'm just wanted to...
Including one Kurt Schlichter, yes.
as well as Kurt Schlichter. Let's dig into some stuff. Yesterday, I had on Major Israel Ben-Shatit of the Golani Brigade's recon unit. You know how elite that is. Wounded in action in Gaza. Is the Gaza war truly over?
Well, it's hard to say because Israel will remain in Gaza behind various kinds of lines. And I think that, one thing to look at is that, Trump had a 20-point plan. That included basically the full surrender of Hamas, disarm, no role in the Gaza government. And they're not going to do that. And I think that will mean that Israel will probably be inside a little under 50% of the territory in Gaza, as are kind of in the terms, as I understand it, of this 20-point plan. The difference is that prior peace deals or understandings were, when it was mainly like the U.S., this has the upfront backing of not just America and Israel's kind of allies in the region, but Qatar, Turkey, who are the main patrons of Hamas. Obviously, Iran is not on board with it, but Iran is diminished considerably after losing the 12-day war. So, we'll see what happens. I don't think there's any signs that Hamas will be disarming. And I'm stealing this from Ari Shavit, an Israeli journalist who recently spoke with Dan Senor and has called me back. But I think this tracks with what I'm hearing, which is that you might see a situation where there's one part of Gaza that will get all of the reconstruction and aid, and then there will be a little rump of Gaza that's controlled by Hamas that will get bupkis. And I think that, it was described by Shavit, but I think this is pretty smart as a kind of East and West Germany situation. West Germany will prosper, East Germany will fall into stagnation. But I'm a little worried because we're seeing now a violent purge in Gaza. They're seeing the Al-Saham units of Hamas going house to house, dragging so-called collaborators into the streets, publicly executing them in front of their families. That is intended to sort of send a message. What we need is for Hamas's enemies, and there are many in Gaza among the Palestinians, to be reversing that dynamic, so to speak.
Well, Donald Trump the other day weighed in on these murders by Hamas.
Right.
And essentially said, if you don't stop it, we're going to kill you. Which, of course, I mean, that's clearly what should be said. I think it was a little stunning for people. Do you think? Well,
he said the opposite the day before. I mean, he did say, "Oh, I understand gang problems. I've got my own national." I mean, he likes to do the weave, as he says, but I think it's obvious where Trump is coming down. And unlike other presidents, when he makes a threat, that's serious. I mean, he's demonstrated in the last few months, starting with Iran, he's not playing games. So, I think Hamas, they're a death cult, so they'll fight to the end. But I do think that there is an opportunity, at least, that there will be, that maybe Gazans will vote with their feet, and they don't want to live under Hamas.
Well, I think you are I think anybody who gets himself between Donald Trump and his signature foreign policy achievement
Yep.
is kind of a fool.
Yes.
I would not want to underwrite his life insurance policy. When this peace deal came down, I'm curious about your opinion, Eli Lake. Do you think Hamas was driven to this near total surrender? I mean, they completely threw in the towel, and now they're trying to, weasel back up. But they threw in the towel. They gave up all the hostages. They were broken. Was it because Donald Trump was going to allow Benjamin Netanyahu to go completely off the leash and essentially kill them all? Or was it primarily because the other Arab nations said, okay, we're done with you, we're sick of you, you're on your own, which is kind of the message that they sent?
Well, okay, so there are only two nations that matter in that calculus. It's Qatar and Turkey. And the Qataris, I think, were scared straight. I think that the Israeli airstrike in the heart of Qatar, in their capital Doha, while it missed the targets, it sent a message to the Qataris that they're no longer immune. They can no longer play the double game. And then I think that made the Qataris understand that they needed to strengthen their already significant ties with the United States in terms of the protection that the United States provides to Qatar. And I think the price for that protection, because we saw right after he announces the 20-point plan and that, the hostages will have been, that Hamas agreed to release the hostages, what did we see? We saw a kind of strengthening, almost an Article 5 NATO commitment from the United States to Qatar to defend its territory. As for Turkey, Turkey's a member of NATO, and I think that there's an argument here also that Turkey understood that, this was a losing game. The war further maybe radicalized their population, and it was time to sort of wrap it up. And so once you have the two major sponsors, and that's where Hamas's leaders in exile live, then I think at that point it became pretty clear that there weren't that many options. Now, the question I think we should all be asking is, why wasn't something like this done by the Biden administration right after October 7th? Why do we have 2 years where we pretended that Qatar was just a neutral mediator when they were harboring the leadership of Hamas?
Well, those are great. That is a great question. Eli Lake of the Free Press. Check out his podcast, Break in History. Follow him at Eli Lake on the Twitter machine. For those of you keeping score, the incredible bumper music today, supplied by Adam, with my personal curation, it all rocks. This is from the early 90s, Ned's Atomic Dustbin with Graycell Green. Ned's Atomic Dustbin. I just love throwing that out there. But on the serious side, look, we've got to stand up for Israel. We've got to stand up for the Jewish people. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. As we head into this weekend, let me remind you once more about the campaign and the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews' critically important work. Now that all the living hostages are back home, the fellowship is more active than ever on the ground, helping men, women, and children. Here's IFCJ President Yael Eckstein on how you who are listening right now, can help.
The needs right now are huge, both for physical comfort of food and medicine, of clothing and bomb shelters, what the fellowship provides, but also for a message of brotherhood, a message that we're not alone, that there are millions of Christians who are sitting in their homes right now, whether it's in Oklahoma or North Carolina, whether they're sitting in Michigan or California or New York, Christians who are turning to the fellowship through love and prayers and donations and saying, tell the people of Israel that they're not alone.
You can tell the people of Israel that you are with them by supporting the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews today. There's a banner posted at the top of Hugh's homepage at hughhewitt.com right now, and you can make a generous gift of $25 or any amount you wish to support the IFCJ. Even though the hostages have been released, at least the living ones, you can still provide hope for them and their families by making your donation to IFCJ today at hughhewitt.com, or you can do it by phone, 800-492-1717. That's 800-492-1717. You know, the scariest part of October isn't haunted houses or horror movies or little goblins coming to your house knocking on your door. It's being vulnerable to cyber criminals. So every day there seems to be a new trick. Text scams, data breaches. It's hard to keep up. Heck, they even sent me a virus today on my old law firm account. Creeps. Well, this Cyber Scaries Month, you need WebRoot Total Protection. Our all-in-one product for individuals, 1 identity, 5 devices, and families, up to 10 identities and 10 devices, gives you a lightning-fast antivirus that will identify theft and phishing scams. It'll give you protection with dark web monitoring, a secure VPN, unlimited cloud backup. WebRoot Total Protection helps defend every part of your digital life. Up to $1 million in fraud expense reimbursements available, 24/7 U.S.-based customer support, so you understand what the heck you're talking about, and new text scam detections protection. Look, with WebRoot Total Protection, you're backed up by this powerful software that's built to meet today's threats. So change cyber scary to cyber secure. 60% off. That's right. 60% off WebRoot Total Protection at www.webroot.com/Hewitt. That's 60% off, but only for a limited time. And only when you go to www.webroot.com/Hewitt. Celebrate Cyber Scaries Month in confidence with WebRoot Total Protection today. Consumer Cellular. ConsumerCellular.com/Hugh. Let me ask you, have you looked at your cell phone bill lately? I have. It's a mess. How much data are you really using compared to how much you're paying for? And what are those hidden, and you got hidden fees, you got surcharges, you got rate increases that just come out of nowhere. What the heck's going on? Get rid of all that. Be proactive in these times of uncertainty. It's time to check your bill, then check out Consumer Cellular, where you truly get savings without sacrifice. It takes about 20 minutes to switch, and right now you'll get $25 off when you use promo code HUGH25. Just call 1-800-411-4454 or visit consumercellular.com/Hugh. New customers even get a $5 credit on their first 5 monthly invoices. That's $60. That's 25 more bucks right there. That's $50 total. What a bargain. And here's some my 50-plus listeners love. 2 unlimited lines for just $60. That's only $30 a line, unlimited. It's an easy way to better manage your cost of living and cut down on essential expenses. So don't wait. Get real savings without the sacrifice. Use promo code HUGH25 today or call 1-800-411-4454. Well, we got a lot more coming up on the Hugh Hewitt Show. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. I want you to stick around because we got Carol Markowitz coming. And then next hour, we're going to spend some time with Ben Domenech and Representative Mike Collins of the great state of Georgia. Keep that dial right where it is, folks. What could be better than punk pioneers Social Distortion covering Johnny Cash? Well, the answer, of course, is nothing. Welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. You can see my Southern Californian 1980s roots in full evidence as I bring you the greatest bumper music in all of conservative radio. I also bring you the greatest guests. And I am extremely excited to welcome my next guest. It's Carol Markowitz, New York Post columnist. She's podcaster for Normally. I think she's got her own, another podcast, the Carol Markowitz podcast. Holy cow, she's everywhere, and she's terrific. Welcome to the show, Carol.
Hi, Kurt. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, let's get right down to it. Donald Trump threatened to go in and kill all the members of Hamas, which I have to admit, I'm all for. I mean, it's not a problem on my side. Do you think he's going to have to do that?
Well, it's funny because when he said we're going to go in, everybody was like, who's we here? He has to mean the Israelis. I think he meant the royal we in that situation. As long as it is not American troops, obviously, I think that most people would support Israel ending Hamas. And if they don't, that's really their problem. Israel knows that it will have to deal with this problem. It's not like the infighting in Gaza isn't going to spill over somehow into Israel proper. They have to know that they need to get it under control. And it's too bad because obviously Israel is in a great spot right now. They've got the hostages home. They're, celebrating. They don't want to continue a war. They're the least warlike people ever. Anybody who's ever been to Israel will tell you that is the most peaceful culture. They talk and sing and, write and act about peace all the time. So I don't know. I don't know what Israel will have to do, but I love that Donald Trump understands that the mission may have to continue for Israel.
Well, I think when Donald Trump says we, I think he's meaning Western civilization, because I contend that this fight is not Israel's fight. This is a fight for all of Western civilization. Once they murder all the Jews, which is what they want to do, they will come for everybody else. And I believe that we should beat them in Gaza. And I'm tired of them, and I think the Arab world's tired of them.
Right. I think that's what we saw with this peace process was the Arab world saying enough of this, enough of these people who caused them nothing but problems. I mean, Qatar had an attack within its borders because they were harboring Hamas leadership. So they have to know that A leads to B, and that's really, maybe they've had enough of it. Let's hope so.
I had the privilege of doing a long interview with a major who was a company commander in the Golani Brigade yesterday when I guest hosted for Hugh Hewitt. And what really came through to me, he was a reservist. He'd been wounded in action. He'd been called up again and again. What's the effect on the Israeli people by this 2-year-long war where they've been held back? They've been held back by very restrictive rules of engagement. Colonel Schlichter would have ended this in November of 2023, and they would have cursed my name for 100 generations. I believe my only critique of the Israelis.
I've signed every nice. Colonel Schlichter petition, so.
Yeah, but what's the effect on the people? I mean, it's got to be hugely traumatic.
It is. It's exhausting, and the fact that so many people were called up to fight in this war that had been out of service, it's really tough. The Israeli economy has had a tough time. I mean, I know that that's very secondary to the people, but restaurants going out of business, there's no tourists and things like that. They end up still mattering to the population, and so it's been a really, really rough 2 years. I think they've turned a corner. I wouldn't bet against Israel. I think Israel has a very bright future, but the last 2 years have been painful and difficult for everybody there. Everybody, from the small business owner to the wife whose husband goes to the front lines to obviously all the people who were lost in that war, their families. It's been a really tough time, and I hope that it's finally turning around.
Well, Carol Markowitz, you of course are half of the Normally podcast. Let's ask. I'd like to ask a question of a normal person. I mean, I'm an LA trial lawyer, so I'm exactly the opposite. What do you make of Abigail Spanberger, who appears to be some sort of android, and Jay Jones? I mean, how can anyone who's normal vote for either one of these two sociopaths?
It's crazy. It really goes to show the fact that they're still kind of polling in an okay place, that Democrats will vote for anybody with a D after their name. Republicans are so, we have our values and our ideals, and they're like, I just want to get my guy in. So it's unbelievable to me that anybody could vote for either one of these people. Spanberger can't answer simple questions like, should biological boys be in girls' locker rooms? And I mean, Jay Jones, the fantasies of killing his opponent's children is sickening. How could anybody stand for it? I always try to think, like, what would I do in this situation? There's no way I'm electing an attorney general who wants his opponent's children to be murdered. I'm sorry. I don't care that we're both Republicans. It's not happening. They don't have that kind of ideals on the Democratic side.
Well, it's frightening because you look at the reaction to the murder of Charlie Kirk, and the same kind of people who are going to vote for Jay Jones and Abigail Spanberger Many of them, suburban wine women gobbling SSRIs and washing it down with bad Chardonnay and sticking "hate has no home here" signs in their front yard. They literally want their political opponents dead. It's bizarre to me.
Yeah. And it didn't just start with Charlie Kirk either. I was writing about the political violence after Trump's election and saying things are getting really bad. Things are getting scary. ICE agents being attacked, Tesla dealerships being bombed, the 86-47 memes on the left growing. It was all coming to a head before Charlie Kirk's murder. And I think that the fact that the left does not self-police at all, the right is having this mini scandal with these young Republicans and their texts. I think the texts are gross, but the right is just self-policing. There's a discussion about what should happen to these people. And sure, some people say the left is so bad, we shouldn't criticize our own. And other people say, no, this is bad enough to criticize. But we have the conversations. They don't do any of that. They don't have any kind of self-policing mechanism at all. There's nobody saying this is too far. Nobody takes accountability. And I saw this coming.
Well, thank you, Carol Markowitz, New York Post and the Normally podcast. Of course, that's KISS with I Want to Rock and Roll All Night in honor of the late Ace Frehley. Ace, the star child, passed away yesterday. Dwayne, doesn't that make you feel old too?
No, not necessarily. I mean, he kind of, I think he took a header in a studio.
Oh.
So it's not like it was a cancer thing, or it's not like it was old age. I think he had an accident in the studio, hit his head, and it was a brain bleed, and I don't think he ever recovered from it.
Oh.
I think that's what happened.
Well, that's sad. KISS, of course, was a part of many of our musical youths. Hey, you've been cutting clips. You got any special ones that we need to pay attention to?
Somebody's got to play these things.
Yeah, somebody's got to play a clip once in a while.
New York, I know you're listening. I know you're going to be doing our friend Joe Piscopo's show Monday and Tuesday.
I am.
Those of you in New York that are considering this whole Zohran Mamdani experiment, how does some new taxes sound? Cut number 19.
But the question is how you'll make them free.
We will fund the revenue that would have otherwise been brought in from fares. And that's something that we would do in partnership with Albany. And I've put forward two proposals. The first is to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers by 2%. That would raise $4 billion. The second is to raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, which would raise $5 billion.
So $9 billion for free busing in New York.
Would you like to see my impression of Ron DeSantis right now? If you can't see me, I'm doing a little dance. Do they not understand the mobility of money that you can move places like, Texas?
Like anywhere else, anywhere else besides, California and New York.
Now, I was just in New York, and it's a lovely town.
Well, for now, yeah.
It's like Vegas. I could take it for like 3 days. But it's not so great that I would want to give them all my money and live like a pauper so other people didn't have to pay their own way, a bus fare. I'd move.
Right.
And I would take all my dough with me. And then what's Zohran going to do?
Who knows? Next clip. Don't even have to think. If somebody threatens gun control, what do you say automatically?
Click, click.
Or, buy guns and ammunition, right?
Exactly.
Don Lemon, formerly of CNN, on a podcast, Cut 21.
Black people, brown people of all stripes, whether you're an Indian American or a Mexican American or whoever you are, go out in your place where you live and get a gun legally, get a license to carry legally. Because when you have people...
Stop.
Yeah, stop.
In case ICE comes knocking on your door. Kurt.
Well, you didn't need that last part. Every American should be heavily armed. As my beautiful Cuban wife once said, Kurt, you don't own enough guns. By any reasonable measure, I do. This is why I love... Ben, you've got more jobs than Marco Rubio.
Oh, gosh. No. I think Marco Rubio is actually supposed to start for the Jets on this weekend. So
I just hired him to fix a fence.
Yeah, not quite to that level, but I appreciate it. And Kurt, I mean, this is a good weekend in particular for us to be talking because I just think that there's a lot going on in the world and a lot of things that are going to be, really have some consequences in terms of long term and in terms of, what we're going to look at in terms of a remade Middle East, in terms of what we're going to see come next for the president's foreign policy agenda and more.
Well, Ben, I've got you for 2 segments, and I have a long list of topics to discuss with you. You are a Beltway-adjacent gentleman. What do you think of this Spanberger J. Jones thing?
So let's start with the situation as it has played out here in the Old Dominion over the past couple of years, which is that we've seen Democrats kind of deal with problems before within their own ranks. You may remember the Ralph Northam situation, where he was discovered wearing blackface, and then there's this whole cascade of calls for him to step down. But then they discovered that, oh wait, the Democrat lieutenant governor has a sex scandal, and the Democrat attorney general, he also has blackface. So it was a little bit of it was
wow,
kind of an explosive experience, And then that, of course, led to the Youngkin-led statewide referendum on the Biden presidency that elevated Republicans in a way they hadn't seen in a while. Now you've got the people who won that time around running for re-election or for election, and Winsome Sears and Jason Miyares. And this Jay Jones situation is, I think people need to understand how much it has cut across the coalition that Democrats have built here. Abigail Spanberger is basically the perfect Beltway choice for a establishment favored Democrat who's going to have a path laid ahead of her. There was even talk that she might be somebody who you could add to a ticket, just given the fact that Virginia is a swing state in 2028. She's an ex-CIA spook who is very much of the swamp and fits all the kind of Northern Virginia wine mom Karen tendencies, in terms of her behavior. She's been struggling along the lines of trans and cultural issues during the course of this campaign, and to a degree as well on immigration issues, where she said a lot of crazy stuff. But the truth is that she was going to coast to the election for governor, and lots of people view her as the heir apparent for someone like Mark Warner or Tim Kaine. Unfortunately, she's been saddled with Jay Jones, who is this much more partisan guy in terms of his behavior, even though I would say Spanberger is the same in terms of ideology. And these texts that came out are very violent, and they're addressed at people who, and this is something I think the national audience might not recognize. These are people he worked with. This is like you talking about the lawyer at the other end of the office. This is. And their kids. And I'm serious in the sense that he's across the other side of the House of Delegates from the guy he's talking about wanting to get shot in the head, and then saying that his kids, 2 and 5-year-olds, and I have a 2 and a 5-year-old, who apparently run around and were on Capitol Hill regularly. These kids who he actually saw in the hallways, he was fantasizing about them dying because he called them little fascists. And Kurt, I will admit that some children can be a little fascistic in terms of their demands, but typically those things have to do with whether they get to watch Bluey or not. And so this is
or join the Young Republicans, but we'll get to that topic too.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But the point is that this is someone who he knew, and he basically had no qualms about it, and then didn't apologize for it until he was discovered, and then didn't really apologize. He just said he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you read those things that I said." And, in terms of the situation here, it's dramatically changed the nature of this race. Spanberger had no real answer for why she would not call for him to drop out. He has been supported by most of the Democrats in the state. No one, it's saying something, Kurt, when Joe Scarborough is saying this guy obviously has to get out, and no Democrats in Virginia are going along with that. So I think that this is a situation where the reason that they can't get rid of him is because they have seen the dramatic shift that's happened in Virginia in the last couple of years that has been engineered by Donald Trump and by everything that we've seen shift in the Republican coalition, where black voters have shifted to the right. You saw that happen in the difference between Joe Biden winning the state by almost 11 points and Kamala Harris winning it by less than 6. And that really is the thing that they're scared of. So they don't want the white woman to cut off, this black running mate that she has on all of her signs, despite the fact that that's the logical thing to do. And that, I think, is a tell about the dramatic way that Democrats are willing to accept radicalism, extremism, and even violent threats within their own midst, and even by people who want to be the law enforcement officers of the Old Dominion.
Well, Ben, how many of these Democrats do you think actually agree with him? Because after Charlie Kirk, we saw that some do.
Kurt, I don't always turn to memes, just like I don't always turn to bumper stickers for the honest truth about this, but I've seen one repeatedly posted by Virginians with a picture of Jay Jones that says radical Democrats want to kill conservatives, and then underneath a picture of Abigail Spanberger saying moderate Democrats want radical Democrats to kill conservatives. And I think that that's the feeling of a lot of conservatives right now across the country, not just here, of course. But it's one of these things where on some level, if you are not calling on this guy to drop out, if you're not saying this is unacceptable, he can have an apology tour and maybe he can try to find forgiveness, but this is not the guy who should be the next Attorney General of the Old Dominion, a role that was once filled by John Marshall, by the way. This is something that is an indication that this is acceptable on some level. It's insulting, it's wrong, or it's inconvenient for you, but you do find that person to not be an objectionable person, to be part of your team, part of your party, and part of everything going forward. And that, to me, is astounding on a certain level, but actually after the experience with Charlie and seeing the level to which people celebrated his death, I'm less surprised than I would have been even 90 days ago.
Well, Ben Domenech, let's hear from Jay Jones himself about another thing that's wrong with him. Cut number 10.
Destroyed their bank accounts. If you're going to prosecute a case, you should prosecute the president, but you're too afraid.
Now, Ben, that was Jay Jones promising to go and prosecute Donald Trump. What he's going to prosecute him for does not appear to be important. He's making the Letitia James play, and that worked out poorly for her. This lawfare stuff. Are Democrats getting the message?
Well, here's the thing that I think is so bizarre about the way that the lawfare conversations play out. And Kurt, you can tell me if you see this because you have the lawyer hat and I don't. Every time that they have these debates about lawfare and targeting and things like that play out on the cable news, they say, oh, this is terrible. This is awful. This is targeting. This is harassment, blah, 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 blah. And then at some point, usually near the end of the segment, not always, but sometimes someone will say, now, of course, given the facts of the case, it does seem like the person did this thing that they're accused of. and then people are just like, well, yes, I mean, that's obviously, sort of the case. But then they just dismiss that as if that doesn't matter, and that's the thing that I think is just so maddening about it.
I'm not sure it matters to them. Here's a little blast from the past from everybody's pal, John Bolton.
Will have to prove it, then he has committed very serious crimes. This is a devastating indictment. I speak here as an alumnus of the Justice Department myself, because not only is it powerful, it's very narrowly tailored. They didn't throw everything up against the wall to see what would stick. This really is a rifle shot, and I think it should be the end of Donald Trump's political career.
Oh, wow. That's John Bolton, who, of course, was indicted yesterday on 18 counts. Word on the street, it's unconfirmed. His mustache is turning state's evidence for the United States government.
Well, it would be very sad to see Regis turn state's evidence that way. And if you know that reference and you've been on the Internet for a very long time. So the thing that I think is interesting about this is that if you actually look at what happened here, the case here is one that's so strong that even lefties like Eli Honig and others are admitting it, that this is not a situation where there is a lot of defense that
assuming they prove what's pleaded. I mean, I've been a lawyer long enough to know what can be proven is not necessarily what's pled, but go on.
But just looking at the evidence here thus far, if you have two people who were being sent this type of information including, people who were, under no kind of restriction when it came to, their ability to pass it on, but also, the fact that they had no security clearances, like that it was done via AOL, which was then hacked.
Excuse me.
Oh, I don't know if did you not catch that detail?
I caught that, but
fun detail.
But you and I, I'm a retired colonel. I know you have many family members involved with the military, very deeply.
Oh yeah.
So you and I are just sitting here, just wait. He put classified material on his AOL. Doesn't he have Hotmail? Did he post it on his MySpace? What's going on? It's insane.
Did he DM, at Iran? No. This is the thing that. What's so funny, by the way, about it is, I say funny. It's funny in kind of a dark way. Is this correspondence that apparently was sent from the Iranians after they, hacked it was along the lines of somebody pulling off some kind of blackmail scheme where they were saying things like, this is going to be bigger than the Hillary Clinton emails, and they were threatening him and stuff like that. So, this is. Look, it's serious stuff. It's
not good.
We played fast and loose with this, it looks like. And what I do want to say, and this is not any personal animus toward John Bolton, even though I do think that he's a guy who has kind of played this fast and loose game with, similar to James Comey, by the way,
yes,
of keeping a lot of notes, keeping a lot of things for himself that he then planned to use in the famous, title that should be for all Washington tell-alls, If Only They Had Listened to Me. And if you just plan to write that book basically every year after you get out of your position, then you need to keep track of things. And it turns out the way that they kept track of them ran into or ran afoul of, it looks like, a lot of the restrictions that were placed on that information. And if he did so, then I think there should be consequences for that. And I don't think that, I'm not one of these orange jumpsuit guys, Kurt. You can feel free to abide by that orthodox approach to things. I'm more of you need a really, really strong slap on the wrist. And that, I think, is something that, can be a message sent to future people who want to write that book. Hey, maybe think twice about messing around with the information that you're supposed to keep safe and secure.
Well, I'm still trying to get my head around, after all that's happened with classified material, if what the pleading says is true, he has 1,000 TS documents in his house. I mean, yep. Dude, do you not watch the news? I mean, whatever. Anyway, let's move on. I know your weekend's going to be busy because I know you're hitting one of your local No Kings rally.
Yeah.
So I want to let me. I have gained access to one of the chants that they have pre-prepared, and I'd like to share it with you. Trump, your kingdom must come down. Trump, your kingdom must come down. Oh, I heard the voice of the people say, Trump, your kingdom must come down. What on earth? Who is the guy who thought, hey, here's a great idea. Let's come out against kings. That'll get Trump.
Well, first off, I have to say that is a really, it's going to be a really sad scene in terms of an imitation of actually a pretty good song. I mean, Satan, your kingdom must come down is obviously what they're basing that on, which is a long-running and much remade song. But it's one of these things that,
it's a terrible cover.
Yes. But one of the things that I think is sad about this on a certain level is that you have these people who truly believe. What my sympathy is for the true believers. Let's put it that way. That have been fooled by this, this completely, leftist-funded, in some instances Soros-funded effort to, get people in the streets. And they were, frankly, quite disappointed in the reaction to the second Trump election because they thought, we're going to run it all back. We're going to do the Women's March again. We're going to have everybody, revolt. We're going to have the resistance, et cetera. Turned out there was a lot less appetite for that because people had experienced 4 years of Joe Biden. And they were like, actually, maybe this will be good for the country instead. And here's the thing. They have to be pissed off, and they should be pissed off at the fact that if you look at the actual tracking, Donald Trump is more popular today in the Real Clear Politics average than Obama was at the same point in his second term. And that is a sign that they are losing the argument, and no kings is not going to make any difference when it comes to that.
Well, I mean, and they've got a complicated problem here. Sure, the usual crew of weirdos, losers, and mutations and malcontents are out there. But it's also, it also looks like they emptied out all the old folks' homes. I mean, it's crusty boomers, and they're whiter than a Romney family reunion.
It's really quite sad. I mean, shouldn't they be out like appreciating yacht rock or something like that?
There's a counter program with a Christopher Cross cover band.
This is to me, this is like watching the Champion Tour or something, on the Golf Channel. It's like, I just don't think that this is a situation where those people need to be out in the streets, and they really should, think about. I mean, there's skin cancer risk.
I was just going to say it. Slurp on that protection. We got about 30 seconds left. Apparently, some texts have been revealed from a bunch of Republican guys who look like they could never get a date with $500 in a Mexican brothel.
By the way, the main takeaway that I had from that, Kurt, and look, people are free to judge this either way, and if they frankly, if they know the people, I think it's good and functional to have a conversation with them about, hey, man, maybe
stop being an idiot,
saying, et cetera. But the truth is, my real problem with this is none of any things that they were saying were funny.
Exactly.
Usually the excuse is this is humor being taken badly.
We have moral objections and aesthetic ones. Anyway, always great to talk to Ben Dominic, editor-at-large, The Spectator, Big Ben Show podcast, which I listen to. He's on Fox News. He's given Marco Rubio a run for his money for number of jobs one human being can hold. And of course, that is Punk Legends Husker Du with Flip Your Wig, because I have the best bumper music in conservative radio, but I can also be serious. As we head into this weekend, let me remind you once more about Hugh's campaign to support the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews in their critically important work. Now that all the living hostages are back home in Israel, the fellowship is more active than ever on the ground, helping men, women, and children. You can tell the people of Israel that you're with them by supporting the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews today. There's a banner posted on the top of Hugh's homepage over at HughHewitt.com where you can make a generous gift of $25 or any amount to support the IFCJ. Even though the hostages are free, you can still provide hope for them and their families by making your donation to the IFCJ today at HughHewitt.com or by phoning 800-492-1717. That's 800-492-1717. Guys, everybody hates going to the gas station. I'm in California. I super hate it. But we need to do something about it. And we need to stand behind the American Exploration and Production Council, AXPC.org. Look, Washington's permitting system is broken. It's hurting families and America's energy security. With the demand for reliable, affordable energy surging, now is the time to act. Without comprehensive, durable permitting reform, energy producers and infrastructure developers will continue to face red tape and endless litigation, delaying and derailing projects that could make energy prices more affordable, create jobs, and increase our competitiveness with China. The American Exploration and Production Council, AXPC, represents leading independent oil and gas producers, and it has a blueprint for Congress to fix this broken system. Its plan modernizes outdated and weaponized permitting laws to make the process faster, more predictable, and consistent across agencies and industries. This is common sense reform, cutting bureaucracy, not environmental safeguards. Here's the reality. American-made oil and natural gas will be essential to meet our growing energy demand. If we lead, we can lower costs for families, secure high-paying jobs, and strengthen our national security. If we stall, our adversaries will step in, and Americans will pay the price with their wallets and in lost opportunity. Stakes couldn't be higher, folks. Our economy and energy dominance depend on it. See the plan for yourself at axpc.org. That's axpc.org. Well, for my bumper music, I am a great fan of powerful, potent pop rock, especially of the post-punk type. And I want you to hear this set from a concert outside the ICE Broadview facilities in Illinois. Cut number 24.
We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We will sing for liberation. We know our real name.
Oh, yeah.
We are not afraid.
Get out your lighter.
We are not afraid. We will
Where's the beach ball? Oh, these guys are rocking hard. They're amazing. Now, if you couldn't see the video on the Salem News Channel, and you should be watching on the Salem News Channel, the people singing looked exactly like you would expect. I mean, you take one look at, you can almost smell the patchouli and unemployment.
At least, unlike Portland, they had their clothes on.
Oh, and and they got the little Palestinian keffiyehs. There's somebody with a cleric's collar, probably for First Church of Karl Marx. And, of course, you got some guy banging on a drum. He's got the stupid neck thing going. And he's just, he looks like he escaped from a Fish concert. And there's one guy sitting there. He's in a pink shirt. He looks slightly embarrassed.
This is like, Peter, Paul, and Mary's grandchildren.
Actually, they look like Peter, Paul, and Mary's grandparents. I mean, holy cow. Joe Biden would say, these guys are crusty. It's pathetic.
It doesn't work.
It
doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Can we hear a little more of it? Because I just want to sway to the big beat. Oh, yeah. We're not afraid. They're not afraid, people. Oh, yeah. I ain't in no ways tired. Remember that? Remember that one, Dwayne?
Oh, yeah.
I ain't in no ways tired.
Oh, yeah.
There's I'm surprised they didn't bust out with Swing Low, Sweet Chariot.
It's like Maxine Waters, who has made more money in the House of Representatives for 50 years than you and I will make in a lifetime, singing "We Shall Overcome."
Oh my God, these guys they're singing "We Shall Overcome" dignity. I mean, my God, it's pathetic. Look, you bunch of crusty losers. Shuffle back to your hovels. Get away from me. No kings. Hey, I'm going to have a counter protest. It's called No Cringe. In fact, my back's hurting from all the cringing I'm doing. Earlier in this year, or in September, I went to the NatCon convention where I was a speaker. I met somebody pretty special there, and of course, we on the surface we'd seem very different. He is a rural entrepreneur from Georgia. I'm a BMW driving Los Angeles trial lawyer, but we bonded over our love for the flag, the right to keep and bear arms, and our mutual contempt for communists. I'm talking now to Representative Mike Collins of the 10th District of Georgia. Mike, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Hey, it's great to be with you, Kurt. Good to see you again.
Well, good to see you. And I've got to ask you, if you're watching on the Salem News Channel, and you should be, if you look in the background, there is a shovel in your home office. What's the significance of that tool?
My goodness, you looked around quick. My dad served in politics for a number of years. And that's one of the shovels that he was given while he was out visiting on a groundbreaking at some event. And I've got a number of his things laying around. He passed away a little over almost 8 years ago to the day. And so it's neat to have a few things laying around. I know that piece behind me there hanging on the wall and the one above it's just some of the accomplishments that he made throughout his political career.
Well, one of the things I really enjoyed talking to you is something I don't get a lot in Los Angeles, which is genuine people, genuine patriot, genuine man of faith. And I came away very impressed with you. And I'm glad to have you in the Congress actually making progress. But I guess progress is being held up. What do you think about this shutdown?
Ooh. The shutdown just goes to show you that you can really identify the Democrats and understand what kind of place they're in right now, how they have boxed themselves into a bad corner. They don't know how to get out of it, but it just goes to show you just what they really look like now. I mean, you've got a group, a party that has been taken over by this radical far left crowd. And that man on your screen there, Chuck Schumer, I mean, they've all but told him, you better keep this shutdown going. If you give in this time, you're going to get a primary, and it's going to be AOC.
Ugh, that's a terrifying thought. Now, you're in a Republican primary right now in the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
Let's focus not on the primary, but let's assume you're nominated by the people of your great state. And of course, all my memories of Georgia are terrible because I was at Officer Cadet School and Airborne School in Georgia, so I'm personally triggered and traumatized. But if you're chosen as the nominee of the Republican Party, can you assess Jon Ossoff, his strengths, his weaknesses, and how you take him down? Because we've got to win that seat.
You're exactly right. And this will be the #1 race in the country by far. And that's because Jon Ossoff is beatable. When you look at his record and I guess his accomplishments are that he has become, in effect, California's 3rd U.S. Senator because he is voted entirely like California. And it's all because this guy is bought and paid for by those crazy people in California and those nut jobs that you got up there in New York. And he is voted exactly down the line like they've told him. Now, when you compare that to Georgia and what our values are, it doesn't reflect us at all. So it's easy to point out the fact that he voted to put men in women's sports. He voted against this budget reconciliation or the big beautiful bill that we passed in the springtime. And within that bill were all those tax provisions for small businesses. He voted against that. He was willing to let small businesses have their tax rates double to what C corporations are. He voted against our farmers and all the farm bill that we had stuck into that budget reconciliation bill. He voted to shut down the government. So he has no problem saying that we're not going to pay our military. We've got farmers down here in South Georgia that were devastated by Hurricane Helene. And the federal aid that is out there to help them to get through this because they can't go to the bank and get a loan. Man, that's gone now. It's not gone, but it's held up. And they can't get that. And they need it now. I mean, time ticks on. And farming, the planting season doesn't wait for anybody. And so it's easy to show that this guy is just way too far left for even most general Democrats in this state. And then you contrast with what we've been able to do in the past. I've only been in Congress for 2 years. I've started on my 2nd term. But in the first 2 years, I was able to get 2 pieces of legislation signed into law by 2 different presidents. Nice. And that just goes to show you when I'm pushing good common sense legislation, which is what I do, there are a lot of people in this state, that's what they want. They want somebody to go up there that can get things done. And you take, for instance, that Lake and Riley Act, that was my legislation. First thing President Trump signed when he got back into office. That was the first piece of immigration bill passed that had any consequence to it in 30 years. 30 years. And we had 37 Democrats go with us on that bill in the House. And that's how I got it through the Senate. I was able to leverage that bipartisan support and push it through the Senate. Now, you know who we didn't get help from in the Senate? Jon Ossoff. God never lifted a finger. And we're talking about a family that was one of his constituents, a piece of legislation that was going to help not just this district or this state, but this entire country get rid of some of these criminal thugs that Joe Biden and Jon Ossoff let stream across that border and just wreak havoc and crime on this country. I mean, for that alone, this joker ought to be fired. And by God, I tell you something, November 2026, man, I'm going to be the one to hand him his pink slip and tell him, John, you're fired. You're out of here. So I look forward to that day.
Well, Representative Mike Collins, if you are nominated, look, we have a very sophisticated audience on the Hugh Hewitt show. They're saying right now they're thinking, okay, he's saying the right things about policy. Is he going to be able to get the money to win this election? Are you going to be able to raise that money? And if you come to California to raise money, because many Republicans do, would you please give me a call to be your MC at your event if you can? I would love doing that. But how do you raise the money? Can you?
Great question. I mean, fantastic, because that's kind of where we're sitting right now. We know where we're sitting in the polls. We're #1. We raised more money than anybody else in the Republican primary during this last quarter. Wasn't even in it the whole time. haven't had the burn rate that the rest of them have had. I mean, I've got one opponent who spent upwards of $4 million, can't get past 20%. The other one spent $1 million. He's still in single digits. But the biggest thing and the best thing that we can do as a Republican Party right now is consolidate. Let's go ahead and unify and get behind one candidate. And
well,
push that candidate.
Congressman Collins, we've got to go because we're at a hard break. But thank you for joining us on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Tarzana Joe, the poet laureate of the Hugh Hewitt Show. What do you have for us today?
Well, you know how dates on the calendar take on significance. There's a date this week that had personal significance for me, and I'm hoping that it will take on significance for the rest of the world. The 13th of October dawns. My father, he was born that day. He wanted to see Bethlehem, but thought it was too far away. St. Edward the Confessor's feast, last monarch of the royal houses, appealed to in severe despair, saint of separated spouses. I watched the hostages return, the smiles of welcome and relief, and as I saw the scene unfold, felt something more like disbelief. The opportunities to date had all been missed, we know, alas, and yet without a doubt we see what could not be has come to pass. My heart is filled with hope for change. It wants to give a joyful roar, but though the peace is holding now, we've seen collapses there before. As fragile as a house of sticks, as brittle as a songbird's shell, broken by a single hand who wishes ill instead of well. And yet the leaders of the world had left their palaces of stone to show the people of the books that in their hopes they're not alone. While here at home the pundits try to see if they can tear it down, unwilling to give credit to the man they say would claim a crown. We know the tragedies of war, horror, pestilence, distress. We ought to celebrate the fact today we have one less. St. Edward would be so excited to see those spouses reunited. That's October 13th by Tarzana Joe.
Wow, that was that was extremely moving, and thank you very much, Tarzana Joe. I think that was great. If I had any kind of human capability for human emotion after law school, I'd be demonstrating it right now.
You were rhyming yesterday. I heard you rhyming yesterday, and I was taken aback that you would be rhyming along with, I forget, was it Hakeem Jeffries? Were you rhyming along with him?
I will occasionally bust a rhyme and drop a rap here and there occasionally. If somebody needs to commission you for a work, how might they reach you? We've got about 30 seconds left.
TarzanaJoe.com, where you can find today's poem posted. And there's a little tab on the top of the page that says, I want a poem. Click on that, up comes the form. You tell me who you are, where to find you, and what you want me to write about. And then we go back and forth until you're happy.
Well, Tarzana Joe's one of the great pleasures of guest hosting for the Hugh Hewitt Show. I'm Kurt Schlichter.